Open to be Agile, podcast number 5, Losing Cabin Pressure, second part of this series. Welcome back, my friends. The airplane cabin called work just lost pressure. So be prepared to secure your face mask first and to breathe some wholesome oxygen as we prepare you to improve yourself so that you can be in the best position to help and lead others. Today's show is actually the epitome of our show title and name, Open to Be. Ask yourself before we take off on this flight, am I really open to be changed, improved, receptive to others, collaborative, a leader, a change agent, a role model, a servant, a coach, and more importantly, am I open to be honest with myself? I think the most important thing is taking ownership and finding every way you can not to fall victim to the inner work blame game, workplace drama, or the old rumor mill. Ask yourself, what am I doing to demonstrate positivity? What am I doing to produce results and be effective, not just for myself, but for my team and those around me, or for my company in general? Do I step up and volunteer, or am I one who usually gets voluntold to do stuff? Soft skills aren't just something we blame others for not having. That itself is not soft skill worthy. Soft skills, emotional intelligence, and self-awareness are something that is truly demonstrated and seen through the eyes of others. Others are the judge of the soft skills we truly possess. To improve upon this area of our game, we have to take a hard look in the mirror. We have to be open to hearing others' feedback and critiques. We have to be open to making ourselves project outwards better in the eyes of others. In this episode, you'll hear some tips, advice, and some great opinions that will hopefully improve your journey. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Open to be Agile, the podcast. This is Losing Cabin Pressure, the second of the series, and it's all about improving those soft skills, emotional intelligence, the art of self-awareness. We should walk the walk and not just talk the talk. You've heard the saying, a leopard doesn't change its spots, or an old dog doesn't learn new tricks. But are those just excuses, I would say, because I think to really raise the bar with emotional intelligence and self-awareness, we as leaders can change the way we operate and behave and get better and aspire to be better in those areas. We don't just have to say, well, that's just me, get over it and deal with it. I think there's a little bit of truth to that, but I think we also got to know our audience, learn our audience, and understand what kind of difference makers we could be with controlling our own emotions, understanding how to work with people, and understanding how to get results and be a good leader. So I'm Jeff Kors. You've met me before, and you've met my other two co-hosts before, Lori Townsend and Isaac Garcia. They're our co-hosts on a couple episodes before this, and they're our Coaching Agile Journeys leaders. So I'm going to let Lori first express her thoughts on the first 4 Open to be Agile podcasts so far. And then please let us know what your opinions are on soft skills and emotional intelligence for us as Agile leaders.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, everyone. So happy to be here again today. I have to say the first 4 podcasts have been so much fun, not only recording them, but also going back and listening to them afterward. And, I always hate the sound of my own voice. But, I really enjoyed the whole process. So I hope everyone in our audience that is listening to these also enjoys it as much as I have. So as far as the topic of the day goes, yes, I think that it is really important that we are emotionally aware and are able to use that in our work as coaches in helping people feel a sense that they have a voice and they're not going to be ridiculed or reprimanded for having an opinion on something. Not sure what else you want me to say right here before we get too heavy into it. So maybe Isaac can talk a little bit about his opinion on things.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I'm happy to be back with everybody again, and Jeff and Lori to be having this conversation. I've really enjoyed the previous podcast episodes. I tell you, I love sitting around and us talking, right? And we just share ideas and share experiences. And it's really cool that now we can do that and share it with other people too. So I'm enjoying that part. And I do hope that our conversations are adding value to the community and to those who have found us and listened to us. And that's going to be our hope. We just continue doing that, is providing interesting content that helps you think a little bit differently. And I'll tie that into this topic, Jeff. So when we talk about really the emotional side of what we do and the soft skills, I think that's a critical element of all the change, or even just supporting of teams and individuals that we try to do. Because if we're looking to say, we don't want to push changing someone's mind, but we want them to think differently, right? That's the point of a coach, right? If you had it all figured out, you wouldn't need a coach, you wouldn't need a teacher, you wouldn't need a leader, you wouldn't need a sensei. You would just go out and be perfect. But none of us are. We've realized that all of us are a work in progress. We all have more to learn. I know what I know, but I don't know what you know. And so for us to have a conversation and really encourage the growth of people's mindset, it's really important that we create a place where they feel safe and they feel like they can be open to learning new ideas and consider something they never considered before. And if we come in waving a hammer and pushing people around, they're going to become rapidly resistant to that, right? Nobody likes being told you're wrong and here's why. So we as coaches and as leaders and team developers, we just got to be sensitive to these things. We can't just say my content was right. We got to think about our delivery too. So I think that's where soft skills really come into play.
I'm very critical of myself a lot, and I really try to introspect as much as possible. And even after I go through a meeting or I do one of these podcasts or I attend a meetup, Coaching Agile Journeys webinar, whatever it is, I'm like, did I talk too much? Or when I said this, I wonder if I came off right when I said that. Or, man, I probably should have rephrased that to connect with my audience. And I think there's a hidden gem in there. And again, this kind of goes back to people are getting a Scrum Master certification or certified Scrum trainer, certified Scrum professional, whatever it is. I'm not really too sure how they dig into how do you use your emotional intelligence in this world. It's about the frameworks, the methodology, it's about the system, it's about the flow, but none of that's really going to get you much of anywhere if you can't work with the people. The people aspect of this game is the hardest part. Anyone could go, step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. Step 3, do this. Well, what happens when problems arise? What happens when there's personal conflicts amongst people? Now you have to be taken seriously, and you could either lose trust, you could not be taken seriously, people could be afraid of you, you're destroying psychological safety, or you're perceived as, oh, here comes Jeff, the Agile police. No, I don't want that label. That's not what I'm shooting for. So in order for me, I think, to be an effective leader, I have to constantly think about this and retune my inner thoughts a lot. So the first question I'm going to put out there to try and help our audience is, how can we or you be completely honest with yourself? Because this is the hardest thing to do, is taking a hard look in the mirror and taking and absorbing that criticism that you may not want to hear. You may be guilty of acting a way that you've blamed someone else for acting, but you're in that same situation in a very hypocrite standpoint. So how do we improve upon this? And how do we improve our perception and how we operate and project outward to others? Start with you, Isaac. Any things that you do? I have great respect for you. I've known you for a long time, and you project yourself really well. So I'm just curious what you do to make that happen.
Yeah, well, Jeff, the thing for me really is recognizing, and it's a hard pill to swallow, but I think I'm in like company here to talk about this. You've got to recognize that you're not perfect and you don't have all the answers. And that's really a step that, as long as if you think I've got my Scrum certification, or I've got my Agile whatever, or I've got my SAFe or whatever certification.
You got 4 master's degrees, right?
Yeah, 4 masters, perfect. I'm the expert, right? When I open my mouth, pearls of wisdom come out, and everyone should just listen to me. There's no reason for anyone else to talk or think, for that matter. I'll just tell everybody what to talk and think about. That's super dangerous. One, because when I say it like that, we all kind of nod our head and go, yeah, Isaac's definitely not perfect, right? And hopefully for ourselves, we recognize, yeah, I've got some learning to do. I don't know everything that I know. I know some, but I'm learning in all these other areas. And I think when you start from that standpoint, you can actually start to become a humble leader. And we talk in Agile too about being a servant leader. You start realizing that you're not the be all end all of the team. You start realizing I've got to grow and the team's going to need to grow. So when you talk about like protecting yourself, for me, I want to learn. I want to grow and get better. And I've already recognized I'm not perfect. So I had an example of this recently up at work where there was a bit of a conflict between me and another individual. And in thinking about that conflict, I said, I need to check myself. Like, I could have gone off and just stewed about, here's all the reasons why that person's wrong. But I need to really examine, was there something maybe where I was out of place? Kind of like you're saying, you ask yourself, did I talk too much? Did I push my will? You got to really self-assess and recognize, we really want to be, what's the goal? We're wanting to create effective teams. We're wanting to create good partnerships. And we can't do that if I'm coming out steamrolling everybody. So I think once you recognize that you can be, I don't want to say critical of yourself, but you're aware you're not perfect. When someone else maybe has a problem with you, you're not defensive about, oh no, you just kind of can say, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm working on that. Thank you for that information. Let me look into that blind spot and see if it's something I can fix. So I think there's a self-confidence that comes once you recognize you're not perfect.
Oh, Isaac, speaking of not being perfect, I have like a great example of something that happened quite recently with me. I created a game to help people that were implementing a SAFe framework in an organization. And I had this whole thing figured out. We were going to fly Elon Musk to the moon using green technology. And that was the whole premise of the game. And I spent days on this thing, and I had every step outlined, and the coaching notes on how we were supposed to coach to certain behaviors that we saw during gameplay and all this. So I presented it to the other coaches on my team, and they kept asking things about, well, what if we did it like this? And everything that they asked me, I said, well, I did it like this because blah 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 blah, or nah, I really don't think that would work. So as I'm going through, I'm listening to myself talk about how their ideas were just not going to work, and they couldn't be as good as mine because I spent days on this thing, right? So I caught myself because I could see the faces on my fellow coaches, and I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? And I stopped myself. I became very aware that this is what was going on with me. And the problem was I had taken way too much ownership over this. I immediately stopped in my tracks and I said, oh my God, I am being such a negative Nancy. I apologize for my behavior. Can we rewind and start this over? And they were very glad that I did that, and they laughed and picked on me for the rest of the day. But that just goes to show that even though I was probably right in my thinking, but the fact of the matter is I brought the team together to collaborate, but then I didn't want to collaborate because I had way too much ownership and caught myself. I heard the key words coming out of my mouth, and I also saw the faces of my colleagues, and it was those cues that led me to go, okay, you're not being who you want to be right now. And I stopped it. So self-awareness.
Perceptive.
Yeah. You got to fix it on the spot.
Yes. Be listening to yourself and be observing the room.
Yes.
So important, because those are all good clues to, am I maybe going in the wrong direction? I will say too, one more thing. What I don't want people to walk away from is thinking, well, what they were saying is I should just let everyone else be right and I'll just be wrong all the time. That's not true either. You have a gate, right? And ideas and information, you choose whether or not information crosses that gate, right? And you absorb it into who you are. You keep yourself as who you are. Don't lose your heart. Don't lose your center. Don't lose your vision. You make the choice. But what I'm saying is you be open to allowing a new idea, a new thought to be entered in. If you lock the door to who you are and refuse to change, padlock it, no one's ever getting in here, no new ideas, that's where you're really exhibiting, in my opinion, an anti-agile type of mindset. I will not change. But if you say, I've considered your change, you made some good suggestions, but I still feel it's more true for me to follow these lines. You need to stay with your reality for who you are. Don't just go around reflecting everybody. So, but I know that's not what you were doing, Lori, but I just wanted to say to our listeners, be adaptable, but don't just absorb everything, question it first. So
yeah, I completely agree. And as it turned out, the game ended up being much better than it was to start with once we really started collaborating after I came down off of my high horse.
Once you allowed collaboration.
Once I allowed collaboration, then it came out a lot better. But there were items that we discussed that we ended up keeping the same. So, to your point, there were a lot of things in there that were just not understood and on both sides.
Awesome. That's the power of team right there.
Yep.
None of us are as smart as all of us.
Exactly.
That's it. That's so true. I tell you, it's so easy to get caught up, because let alone are we imperfect and fallible people. By human nature, we are fallible right out of the chute, right? So in a very stress-conduced work environment, revenue-driven, finance-driven, a lot of pressure to get the product out the door, whatever it may be, there's a whole lot of personalities at play, and things could get hot. It could be like a boiler room. And that's where, in order for us to have impact, I've seen shouting matches. I've seen knockdown dragouts. I've probably been yelled at. And I really have to get inside my own brain and go, don't succumb to this. I have to take myself and move from that extrovert side where I could just literally knee-jerk reaction, boom, shoot, straight off and go, move introvert right now. Listen to what's going on. And I've heard time and time again that if you start to alpha dominate the room, you start to be that controlled talker, and then people know you as that person just talks. They start to tune you out. So you have to have this dichotomy to be effective. You have to know when to right times to talk to be effective, and listen, because sometimes when you sit there and listen and absorb, even if you have a lot to say or nothing to say, you're kind of analyzing the game. You're kind of breaking it down, going a little bit more strategy driven than just talking for the sake of talking. And that's hard for me. The reason why I point that out is because I'm so extroverted that I'm telling you, this is the fight in my head of the good fight I'm trying to fight all the time, to go, Jeff, move the other way. No, I know you know this. No, don't say anything. And this is just me coming out and making a confession here. I am uncomfortable with crickets. Not the real crickets, silence. I want to be that person that breaks it every time, but I've had to learn to get comfortable with that. So like my question really was, how can you completely be honest with yourself in improving these areas? I say this to everybody, it starts with you. Nobody else can make you want to be honest and fix these areas. The easy cop, I just am who I am. Oh, well, get over it. If we really go that route, and there is a certain uniqueness to nature, are we improving in this soft skill area, in this emotional intelligence area? And are we creating the kind of psychological safety ourselves?
that we want to produce out there on the floor, working with people and working in the office. So I'll move into the next question, which is steps to improve upon your soft skills. Like, okay, I'll start it off just so you know where I'm going with this. Some people come up and go, Jeff, you're doing a great job. Somebody wrote something not long ago, and it was really nice feedback. But I have to bring myself to turn around and go, give me something I can work on. I want to be better in that area. I got to bring it to myself to not take criticism personal. I'm asking for it. I want it. Where am I weak, and what can I work on? I do it now with this podcast. Record yourself. It's always great. Record yourself, or record what you want to say to somebody. If you're thinking about replying to an email, record it or write it in an email. Don't hit send. Come back a day later and listen to it. How did I sound? How can I get better at that? How do I connect with that person so I could be impactful? Or did I just put that person on the defensive? So those are just a couple pointers that I have of improving upon soft skills and self-awareness. Lori, do you have any?
Well, yeah, I think I touched a little bit on listening for keywords, the negative words like, you can't do this or that's not right or other things like that you can listen for as you're speaking. Another way that I find to become more self-aware and work on these types of skills is understanding my audience and seeing what type of impact I have on them, even, while I'm there, but also after I'm gone. So if I find that, I had a training session with a team or whatever, I'll usually try to find somebody that I partner with to ask follow-up questions later on. So for example, I did a training on story writing for a team that was really struggling with it. And they were coming up to a PI planning event. And I asked the Scrum Master, who I was very close with, do you feel like the team benefited from that training? And he said, oh my God, yes. They knew exactly what to do. It was the best event we've ever had. It was very, very helpful. So when I hear feedback like that, I think to myself, okay, that interaction with that team was impactful. I've also heard feedback where teams don't use the training that I've given. And then I look into myself and say, okay, how could I have made that more interactive? How could I have made that more collaborative and not come across as the Agile police, as Jeff said? So those are the types of things that I look for is what are the effects of my interactions with other people. And I think that tells me a lot, not only at the time, but after it's done.
Any thoughts, Isaac? Any tips you have for improving in this area, like games, action items, exercises?
Well, I definitely think observation, I think would be my key word. And that's kind of what Lori was saying, right? She was talking and she caught herself with a couple of key words. Listening is critical. If you had to spend some time learning and practicing a soft skill, practice listening. You need to develop the ability to not just hear the voice in your head, what you're going to say next. You need to develop an interest in what other people are saying and start listening to understand. Stephen Covey's The 8th Habit of Highly Effective People, right? Listening to understand or seeking first to understand, that is going to be the number one key that I think enables everything else. So if you get to the point where you're globally listening, we talk about 3 levels of listening in some of our coaches training, and level 3 is global. I'm not just listening to what's happening in my head. I'm not just listening to what you're saying, but I'm listening wholly to the environment. That's where you start hearing, and I use that with air quotes, hearing people crossing their arms, people shrinking into themselves, the conversation going in a direction it shouldn't go. That is all an effect of you listening effectively. So if I were to say one soft skill, where do I start? What do I start working on? Find good content that will train you how to listen better, and then practice it. Find a time and a place sit down with someone and say, for the next 10 minutes, I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to listen. You talk. And then I'm going to repeat back to you only what I thought I heard you saying. And just do that exercise with several different people. Learn to be a better listener. All your soft skills will, I think, improve from there.
Spot on. So just to fill our listeners in on those 3 levels, I'm such a firm believer in it. I was like throwing you thumbs up the whole time. The first one is internal listening. Do not aspire to be in that zone. That you have a filter on. You are most likely obscured in your vision and how you're thinking, and you may have a personal conflict. So somebody may be telling you something serious, and you're going to contort those words into what you want it to believe and go, did you hear what that person said?
Jeff, I have an idea. Let's give an example of that. So, I love talking about, work and things like that. So Jeff, tell me real quick, what was the biggest thing you did today at work?
Worked with one of my teams today, and we went through a scoping exercise where we were working on some stuff.
Work is great, right? Yeah. So what we're basically saying is work is really great, and we agree that we all like work, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Advancing my story. The only reason I paused was to pretend like I was listening to you, but I'm just saying what I think. So
yeah, you already had your own opinion.
Right. And the only thing I'm listening for is my turn to advance my position.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm listening. Don't do that.
Yeah, so the second level then is active listening. And that's a decent zone to be in. And this is where we kind of affirm, like I'm talking to Isaac, and Isaac, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, and I heard you were talking about scope. So I heard that. This is scope. Yeah, you're working with your team on a scope part, and I get that.
Yeah, we were just trying to scope it out and understand what pieces do we need to put in this so that we could deliver it. So yeah, you get that, right? Yeah,
you're scoping it and looking for what you're going to deliver. That makes perfect sense. I understand that, Jeff.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
And reflecting.
Yep. And you try to take that personal filter off. Now we're gaining alignment. You hear a lot of there's some head nods going on. And then what Isaac said is the global listening. This is it. This is what I say is the key, because even as you're speaking, you should be globally listening. Because if I said, this person today was wearing a blue shirt on my team, and good grief, I hate the color blue whenever I see it. Now I'm looking at Isaac, and most of you wouldn't know, but he's wearing a blue shirt. Mm-hmm. Isaac just rolled his eyes, and I could see he's not too, maybe I shouldn't have been talking about somebody on my team wearing a blue shirt, and oh boy, he's wearing one and he's not happy, right? But I picked up on it. I could see, hey, wait a minute. He's talking about me in that blue shirt, and I could see the look on his face. So I know while I'm talking, I'm still globally listening. I know I just upset someone. Isaac, I'm so sorry. I realized you're wearing a blue shirt today. I like your shirt, really. I didn't like that other person's shirt. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And this is where body posture, how people are sitting, how they're taking up space or not taking up space, tone is critical. Eye rolling, like you're saying, nervous motions, you know what I mean? How people are moving, and even distractions. This is where, you're talking to somebody and a fire engine, goes by in the background, or maybe you've had this happen. You're in a room and you're talking to a group of people training or having conversation, and somebody opens the door, they come in late or something. And what happens? All heads twist. If you're just doing your focus listening, we're going to stay on topic and just keep talking. Or be aware, hey, does that new person walking in the room, do I need to address that? Do we lose our flow of energy? Are people starting to zone out? Are people getting tired? Or we're having a meeting after lunch, eyes start drooping. Hey, maybe we should take a break. Why don't we stand up, stretch our legs? That's global listening. It's not just about what's being said, how it's being said, where it's being said, the environment. And that, a true master of this, I still find to this day super impressive, because they pull stuff out of the environment that helps them connect with their audience. It's powerful.
I want to add one more level of listening that's not defined, that maybe you guys can agree with me on here, and that in our day and age is distracted listening. It's that ability that when we're in a meeting, whether it be on Zoom, whether we be in the same room, whether it be with my son or my daughter, or how many people have this with their family at the dinner table, and you look around and stop to ingest what's going on here, everybody's deep into their phone. Or you're at the meeting and everybody's got their laptop up and you hear the, what's up? I guarantee you, how many times at a meeting do you go, hey, Fred, what was your answer to that? Oh, could you repeat the question? It is such a bad thing in the world we live in. And we as leaders, if we're going to fix this, we have to role model it. We cannot be guilty of these things. So we have to be globally listening, globally aware, and avoid the distracted listening. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I completely agree. Living your own example is so important. I'm a firm believer in that. And in fact, I was the only person at my last company that actually turned on the camera on my laptop during video calls. I was okay with that. But one of the things that I also wanted to bring up, though, is when we miss the mark, because like Isaac said, none of us are perfect. I think it's important to acknowledge it. And acknowledge it immediately and say, hey, look, I'm sorry. I missed this. I was not aware of what was going on at the given time. I apologize. And I'd like to fix it. But I think it's important to acknowledge when you make a mistake. And that makes you real. And people relate to that. So don't ever think that just because you make a mistake or you miss something that it's the end of the world. Don't ever think that. It just makes you a real person.
Yep. Key there is how do you respond and bounce back?
Yeah.
What do you do after the mistake?
Yeah.
So I'll dovetail into this last little piece, and we'll wrap this up. So I brought it up. That's just me. That's what makes me unique. People are just going to have to get over it. And then there are a lot of very unique marketability things of a person that have gotten them very far in that career, and they're like, that's my strength. That's no way am I going to peel that back or change that about me. So what are your thoughts there on, hey, I'm just going to be myself. Any attempt to change the fact that I talk or I negotiate or I have the best ideas or I'm so educated that people should just listen to me. What are your thoughts there?
I'll just say for me, I wonder with that, do you want to be right? And when I say right, I mean right to what you think, right? Do you want to just express your thought and your opinion, or do you want to be significant? Because I think if you are just go around expressing your thoughts, you'll have a small amount of impact on people, teams, organizations, the world. But if you really want to have a big impact, you want to be significant, look at any significant person in the world. There was some level of growth and development and them moving from level to level that enabled them to have the impact they want to have. So I would just say, do you want to be right or do you want to be significant to the world? I don't want to blow it out of proportion, but we can just state our side, or we can be smart and really be an influencer for positive change.
Wow, Isaac, that is so sage. Seriously, it is. I think that there's a certain amount of humility that we need to embrace if we're going to be effective leaders. We might be educated, we might be right, like you say, but knowing that we're going into this trying to help people have better outcomes at their jobs, have better relationships at their jobs, better connections, all of those sorts of things. I think that you have to have a certain amount of humility in order to be able to do that.
I'll say this, the world's going to test you. Work's going to test you. Your family's going to test you. The cashier at the grocery store might test you. You know what? You have to test yourself. Gain some control. And I've had to learn this the hard way through my life and really think it's a game. I think Daniel Mezek says this is a game. The meeting's a game. And in order to be better at the game strategically and as a player, and to be viewed as a solid leader, you have to be effective with how you respond, with how you're perceived, with how you project to gain that rapport and gain that trust and respect as a leader. And that's what I'm going to leave everybody with, is a bit of a challenge, and think of, with the week ahead, how did I just come off when I said that? Or what part of my game can I get better at? And literally write that down somewhere and go out and try to do it. And I'd love to hear how you get better at being a better you, to be a better leader. Lori, any words to leave our listeners on?
This has been such a thrill to talk about this subject, Jeff. Thank you for inviting me to be here and talk about this. I think it's something really important, and I think it's overlooked a lot as far as, why it's important in the workplace. I know a lot of it gets dismissed as, why do we need soft skills? Why do we want, do we really care if our people stand around and sing Kumbaya holding hands? We just want to get the work done. When the fact of the matter is when they are singing Kumbaya, they actually get more work done. Soft skills is not a joke. It's real, and it's important.
And Isaac.
Yeah, I'll just say, don't ever stop learning. Don't feel like this is just the way I am. I can't control my temper. I can't make sure I respond correctly. I can't learn to listen better. You can. Soft skills are important, and the reason we talk about them is because they are out there ready for you to learn. It just takes practice. It takes discipline. But from what we've learned, and we're not experts, but from what we've learned, I think all of us could agree that the effort is well worth the returns you get for working on these soft skills. So go out there and work on them, and don't ever feel like you're stuck and that you can't grow anymore. It's all a journey.
Thanks, Isaac. Thanks, Lori. So everybody out there that's listening, complete the package. You got your education. You have your certifications. You work in this world, in this line of business, no matter what it may be. Complete the package. Make yourself better. Invest in these soft skills and defy the odds of you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Just go out, do it. It's up to you. Only you can make that change and be an effective leader, and we believe in you. Thank you for joining us today on Open to be Agile.
Thank you for joining us. The next topic we focus on will be Agile is not all that bad. Or is it? This topic will surely be a treat. However, we may, in the most agile way possible, pivot here soon and bring someone in who is very green to the Agile space, or someone that knows nothing about Agile at all. And we'll answer some questions and try to create a space where we can get any newbie up to speed quick on what they need to know, or some pointers or pitfalls to avoid. One other thing, we want you to put value in our backlog of topics. So please tweet us the topics you'd most like to hear from this list. 1. The super product owner. 2. Can project management and Agile coexist? 3. The great Agile debate, scaled models. 4. Rest weeks. 5. Senior managers, leaders, and execs. Here are your tips to lead and foster an environment of Agile success. Please tweet us at Coaching Agile Joe. That's J-O at the end of Coaching Agile. All one word, Coaching Agile Joe. Your tweets could determine our topic lineup. Have a great week, and be sure to challenge yourself in improving those soft skills. And please inform us of your Agile journey experiences with this. We'd love to hear it. And more importantly, we'd love to share it with others if you're open to that. So go out and Agile on in the week ahead, my friends. Thank you. To learn more or to contact us, visit www.coachingagilejourneys.com.